so we didn't do that. And we avoided it. We just did everything we could to avoid debt. But we saved the money to build the gallery, and as things happen, in order to build everything, it takes longer and costs more. Man, we finished that 10,000 square foot gallery. We were several $100,000 in debt. And every 6 months, man, I would walk up to my banker and take a big sack full of cash and set it on his desk and walk out. And he didn't give me nothing but a handshake. And I would do that every 6 months. And he said, we need to get this converted to a mortgage so that he wanted me to start paying him monthly. I said, no, I believe God's going to help me pay this thing off, man. I got to pay this thing off. It really started bothering me. It started affecting me mentally. It started affecting my pains. It started affecting my attitude. And I don't want to illustrate this too complete. I didn't even talk about this in the book. But I can tell you, we got in such a place that we were paying some of our employees on our credit cards. I mean, buddy, we were in a mess. And this has not been that long ago. This is 18 years ago. But I'm just simply saying we were in a mess. And so somebody called me to speak on a cruise. It wasn't EcoQuest, but they called me to speak on a cruise. And Linda, we'd already scheduled a vacation. And unknown to me, Linda scheduled that cruise. And so for the first time of our life, we had 2 weeks of vacation in a row, 2 cruises. I mean, this is good stuff. This is not as bad as it sounds. 2 weeks of a cruise in a row. One, I had to give one 30-minute speech to pay for my cruise. And so it was good. But what happened is I got physically rested. And after I got physically rested, then I began to get spiritually renewed. And I went in to talk to the Lord. I don't know if you ever did this, but I just went in and talked to the Lord. And at first, I said, it's me. Sorry I haven't been here a while. I'm really busy. And I'm back now. And before too long, I found myself saying, I'm sure you already know this, but I'm really a mess. And I just got real honest. And the more I talked and cried and told him how bad the situation I was in, I just said, I need some help. I really need some help. I don't see a way out of this. This is getting worse. This is not getting better. I really need some help. And I'm telling you, some of you could learn a lesson from what I'm telling you this morning. Prayer is not a theory. Prayer is not an opinion. Prayer is something that God himself invented whereby we can talk to him and tell him what's troubling us. And I just said, this is it. I have a mess. And I need an answer. And I told the Lord, I'll do anything. But I need an idea. How many know that God is a God of ideas? I need an idea. I'll do anything. And I prayed, and we finished our vacation, and I went home. And I went upstairs to my studio to paint. It's on the 2nd floor and has a spiral staircase that winds up to it. I'm sitting up there, and now I'm back in the real world with the overdue and the interest and the sack of money and the friendly bank. And so, man, I'm sitting up there, and my son comes up that spiral staircase. When you pray, and the Lord sends a boy that won't even pick up his shorts with the answer, you can miss it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, by the time he's coming up the stairway, and he's already grown up and married, but you never get over the fact that he's the one that the 3rd grade teacher said that you'll always be at. He's the one that whenever company came, we just closed the door to his room and locked it on the inside and hit the key on the top. You know what I'm saying? It was that one that came up the stairs. And when he got to the top of the stairs, he said, Dad, I was just thinking, I know you don't care anything about sports, but the University of Kentucky's been doing real well, and the whole time he was on vacation, they haven't lost a game. And if I don't miss my guess, they're going to win a national championship, and it's going to be the first one in 17 years, and I think you ought to do a painting of the Kentucky Wildcat. And with that, he turned and walked downstairs. And something inside me just kind of turned to flip-flop. And I thought, that's it. And I went to the Cincinnati Zoo where they had a wildcat, and I did a painting. It took about 2 weeks. I called a friend of mine and said, what should I do with this? He said, Rick Pitino needs to see that. We took it over to Rick Pitino, and I said, I'd like to show you something. He looked at it and said, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I said, I'd like to get you to endorse this. He said, I just did. I said, I want you to endorse it on television so I can sell it. And he said, I want you to go see my people. I don't have time to tell you the whole story, but I can tell you that once we signed the contracts, and I went to an advertising agency and spent money I didn't have, I said, let's promote this to all the state of Kentucky. Within 3 weeks, I walked into my banker with a check and said, I believe I owe you some money. And wrote him a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars in weeks because I prayed, because God simply answered. Listen, I'm not a sports artist. Rick Pitino is not my friend. I haven't done it since. They came from the University of Florida and wanted me to do the Florida Gator. I said, no thanks. They came from Carolinas when we do the Panther. I said, no thanks. They came from Mississippi. "What we do to George Bulldog?" I said, "No thanks." But that print, to this day, is the best-selling print in the history of the University of Kentucky. Listen, that print sold for $200 on the radio. You know what, on the television, you know what the price point for product on the television was in 1996? $19.95. You can't sell something. My advertising agency said, see, I went and got the advice from the world. The world said, you can't sell something for $200 on television. That's not going to work. Everybody I went to said it won't work. So you know what we did? We did just exactly what the disciples did. The Bible said they fished all night and caught nothing. And Jesus said, cast your nets on the other side and you will find some. And so they did that. Now the world would say, right, the fish were hiding all the time on the other side of the road. And they just ignored the advice of the world and listened to the advice of the one who made the fish. And what I did was simply ignore the advice of the experts, and we followed our own heart and followed what we believe is an answer from God. And I'm telling you the truth. This is the last thing I'll say about it. Baby, we moved into the gallery, the little apartment we have overhead, because the phone rang 24 hours a day with people calling to order a print or 4 or 5 or more prints. And some days we sold 1,000 prints a day. Now that's $200,000 a day. And in Kentucky, that's good money. I don't know what it is where you come from. But I can just tell you, that solves a lot of problems. What am I saying? I'm not bragging. It's not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, said the Lord of hosts. It's not because you're a talented artist. It's not because you're a good salesperson. It's simply because whenever you follow His word and listen to what He has to say and walk in His counsel, He said that I am obligated by my word to bless you. He said, blessed is a man that ignores the counsel of the world but delights himself in my advice. He shall be like a tree. That's what the whole book is about, being like a tree. He said, he shall be like a tree planted. Planted where? By rivers. What does that mean? If you're planted by a river, you don't have to run all over the world and try to find success. The river gathers nourishment from 100 million acres and brings it by your roots. Everything you need is right in your own backyard. Acres of diamond said. God knows how to bless His people. So the Bible becomes the benchmark against which you measure all other advice. So when you are looking for advice, go to the Bible first. The second place you go looking for advice is in prayer.